Welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Deadly Podcast of Kung Fu, brought to you by The Villain's Man, where myself, Justin Raymer, attempts to traverse the continuity of Marvel's most prolific martial artist, an Iron Fist and Shang-Chi. If you want to keep up with the podcast, you can do so over on social media platforms such as Twitter, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. If you want to keep myself, Justin Raymer, you can do so over on Twitter, X, and Instagram, and Blue Sky if you want. If you want to hear me and my friends play some tabletop RPGs such as Dungeons & Dragons and Star Wars, go check us out over on the Last Tavern on the Left podcast. Currently, we're playing my homebrew campaign, The Infinity Crisis of the Omniverse, where my players are respectively playing Kid Goku, Dr. Doom, and Ichigo Kurosaki, stuck in an amalgamated universe of the Planet of the Apes and Star Wars. It's been great. Dr. Doom has just found the artifact location that Cornelius was working at. Milo was there, who's very little in the Planet of the Apes movies, but he's very prominent in some of the comics. Go read Planet of the Apes Catalysm. It's awesome. Goku is running amok on Ape City. They think that he's a mutant boy because he has a monkey tail. And Ichigo Kurosaki is with the first amalgamated character they've met, Johnny Stormwalker, Luke Skywalker, and Johnny Storm. That's right, it's amalgamated with Marvel as well, as they learn the ways of the Jedi from Yoda. So if you're really into comic books and manga and just want something fun, maybe intriguing, go check out Last Tavern on the Left podcast and follow it wherever you follow Deadly Podcast Kung Fu. Now, before we get started with Power Man Timeless number 4, recently just dropped an episode covering the announcement of the Undead Iron Fist by Jason Liu and Fran Galen. You can go check that out in the feed. Last night, as of the recording of this podcast on June 19th, we got some concept art from Von Randall, which we kind of got hinted at that from Jason Liu. I touched on that on the episode. Everybody's really excited about it. This should show you bring back Danny Rand into Marvel Comics. On that note, bring back Finn Jones as Danny Rand in the MCU. Very curious to where all of this is going to go. Is the armor? Is it a falcon on the head? Some type of bird, a hawk? If you lean into the future of Khonshu resurrecting Danny Rand, and to the Timeless 2023 book that we got, hey, kind of makes sense. Some might say it's a dragon. I can definitely see a falcon because it looks like it's got a pointed beak. But hey, we're going to worry about that in September. We're going to go ahead and talk about Timeless Power Man number 4, which is the end of this series. I don't know if this got cut down to 4 issues. It certainly kind of feels like it, as we're going to dive into notes here later on. Everywhere had 5 issues advertised for this story. But if it hurts it, hey, that's your opinion. We're here to read comics, talk about comics. As a guy who trying to break into the independent scene as a writer, I get that books get cut all the time due to sales. It's not pretty. I hate that for writers and artists. And, I hope that's really not the case with this book, but it certainly feels like it in my opinion. But let's go ahead and dive into the issue itself. It was released on June 18th, 2025, with 21 titles from Marvel Comics. They are Aliens vs. Avengers Volume 1 number 4. I need to read that. I have not picked that one up yet. I'm really behind on my books, so I'd be very selective on what I want to pick up, and I try to start from later books to earlier books, but I had to pick up this Power Man book for the podcast. Everybody says a lot of fan service, really good. Said Hickman did a great job, so I'm excited. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 7, number 6, Avengers Volume 9, number 27, Bring On the Bad Guys, Doom Volume 1, number 1. Definitely had to leave that set in my box, even though I wanted to read that. Doom's Division Volume 1, number 4, Emma Frost, the White Queen, Volume 1, number 1, Fantastic Four Fanfare, Volume 1, number 2. Not a big Fantastic Four guy. I did see some people talking about this online, that they're battling Cenobites from, like, Hellraiser. I was like, okay, might have to read that now, because Hellraiser is, like, my Probably my favorite horror franchise. Oh, I'm getting text messages this early in the morning. Let's go ahead and turn that sound off and ignore them. We got Godzilla vs. Avengers Volume 1 #1. Can't wait to read that when I can pick that up. Might just grab that from a buddy and read it. Gwenpool Volume 1 #2. Iron Man Volume 7 #9. Jeff the Lance Shark Volume 1 #1. Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu Volume 1 #9. Psylocke Volume 2 #8. Spider-Verse vs. Venomverse Volume 1 #2. Star Wars Dr. Aphra Chaos Agent Volume 1 #1. Ultimates Volume 3 #13. We're 2 issues away from that ultimate debut, I'm going to assume, of Shang-Chi. I think I might cover that whole issue here on the podcast. I briefly talked about the Power Man issue when it came out with Danny Rand, and I really didn't want to go into depth with that. But this I might cover just based on the cover that we've seen when it was talked about. Weapon X, Volume 2, #5, West Coast Avengers, Volume 4, #8, Wolverine, Volume 8, #10, and X-Men, Volume 7, #18. The title of this issue is called The Body Celestial, and your writers are Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. Your pencils go to Bernard Chang, as long as inks. Man, he makes a very terrifying Void in this issue, especially with the opening page with him and Luke Cage. Marcelo Maglolo on your colors, Travis Lamb on your letters, and Darren Shan as your editor. The cover is done by Andre Besson and Rachel Rosenberg, who's done all these covers. And we see a very negative-looking Luke Cage, who is the Void, battling Timeless Cage. We got a variant cover by the legendary Alex Ross of classic Power Man with the tiara and everything. And then the sketch cover that comes with it. Eventually, I'm going to have to pick this cover up. Man, the sketch cover is a little too pricey for me online. I would love to have them, but man, I cannot pay $40 for that variant cover, especially not at the time. But eventually, I'll get around and I'll get those. But let's go ahead and move on to the story. As a celestial body begins to form, Void breaks away from Power Man and races towards the sun to devour it. He gives chase, only to have the evil entity fill his mind with those loved ones he let die. Both collide in a flurry of burning atmosphere. Meanwhile, in New York, Mayor Luke Cage gives a passionate speech to its citizens. He's interrupted as a gateway opens up and Aeon the Knife steps through. Removing his armor to unleash his full power, the Defender urges everyone to get behind him. Back on the sun, Power Man and Void continue their battle as the sun begins to fade. As the mocking continues, the hero realizes the truth. Void is just the doubts and weaknesses inside himself. Unleashing the power of 1 million exploding suns, Power Man defeats the entity and reignites the sun. Shooting like a blazing star, he speeds away to stop Eversight from merging with the celestial body. The celestial mind tells Power Man he is too late, but he refuses to believe it. As it informs him its plan is to let Aeon destroy the Earth so it can begin anew, Luke begs Eversight to believe his words. Playing to her human heritage, she listens to Cage and bursts from the mind, wanting to live her own life. As she does, Power Man plunges into the forming celestial body, becoming the entity himself. Looking down upon the Earth, Celestial Cage's omnipotent light washes over the destruction between Aeon and his 616 counterpart. Plucking the knife into space, he looks upon the entity and believes he's finally found a worthy opponent. Quickly, the Inhuman discovers he is wrong as Celestial Cage hits him with the power cosmic chi and wipes him from existence. Turning to Eversight, Power Man uses his power to give her the gift she deserves, to live as a human. Meanwhile, in the darkest corners of the cosmos, Aeon's shattered existence and sword drifts into where the Void awaits. 1 month later, Eversight lives the human life that was stolen from her. Stopping by a thank you memorial for Mayor Cage defending the city from the space invader, she leaves a note for Danielle Cage. It tells her that she will forever be loved and protected by a force stronger than time and space. As Danielle's father finishes reading the letter in his office, Celestial Cage roams the cosmos alone yet again. As I mentioned at the top of the podcast, this feels rushed. I feel like we just got 2 issues crammed into one, and that sucks because these first 3 issues are well paced. They tell a great story. I was very excited. And then, I feel like this just collided, like Void and Cage in this book. And it was just, man, I don't want to say it's a mess. Because, you get the gist of what Kellyanne Lansing was writing. But I feel like it's just crammed in here. And, like I said, everywhere had issue 5, cover not revealed. And I know that doesn't mean that there was 5 issues, but I'm pretty sure this was announced as a 5-issue series. And I actually reached out to Jackson Lansing to see when the release date was for 5. He never answered, and this probably could be the reason why, because it was the last issue. But I hate that, man, because we know that the month of May was skipped for an issue. To me, that might indicate that the book was cut down to 4 issues towards the end, and everything had to be crammed in that final issue. And I hate that because it really needs a lot of pages to explain some of the context that we're not getting in the book outside of, putting together what you can read in the gutters. But, yeah, really feel bad for that hive mind there because I really like the story, and I really would have liked to seen more into it. But let's move on to this main event with Cage and the Void. So we kind of get the truth here, and it sounds like the whole reason timeless Luke Cage took the powers of Hulk and Sentry is because he literally thinks his powers don't matter compared to everybody else. And some of the dialogue we get here from the Void as they're going to the sun. Do you remember what Bob Reynolds told you when the Sentry burned through your blood? Half your legacy will be the greatest good you can imagine, and the other, the greatest evil. Did you think he was joking? No, you thought you were better than him. And just those 2 parts of dialogue, it's really cool in the page because it shifts back to Earth. And we see Luke rolling up his sleeves as he's squaring off with Aeon the Knife. And then Aeon the Knife is kind of it looks like he's tearing the armor off of his arm, kind of mimicking the gesture that Luke's doing, but his armor's falling away from him. And then the next one we say, please, Luke, I'm not your enemy. Listen to me. Listen to the truth. And that panel is Void taking the shape of Danny with the Iron Fist mask, burning into the sun. Accept who you are. And then the Void starts laughing. Accept that this is what we deserve as they're burning in the sun. And Luke Cage says, we? That's it, isn't it? Bob was wrong, and he's choking the Void, and he's flying further into the sun. That's why my powers mean nothing to you. Why what you're saying means so much sense. Not because they said it, because I do. You're not some fundamental force of the universe, Void. You're just the weakest part of me. Lucky you, then I don't want you back. And the Void is screaming, no, Luke Cage, I'll never go back. You could never kill me. I don't need to. You're just the words I never said and the things I never did. Kill you, there's nothing to kill. Doesn't matter how many times you eat the sun, because under my unbreakable skin, I have 1,000,000 more. And he starts to basically go Super Saiyan. The Void kind of drifts off to the sun, and he just says, finally. So what I'm gathering here by reading this is the Void's just been playing on this weakness of Luke Cage thinking, man, my powers are dull and boring, pretty much, compared to all the cool looking powers Danny with these chi and how he forms it around his fist. Just cool superpowers against everybody around him. Makes you wonder what this Luke Cage thought about his wife, because she didn't have anything cool either. But anyways, so this was just a Void playing on Luke's weakness, so he would never get rid of the Sentry's power, which means he would never get rid of the Void. But what's cool in this moment is Luke realizes that his own superpowers is kind of what Void fears the most, because they hold back. His unbreakable skin holds back Bob's true power, which is the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, which is actually the power that could kill the Void, is what I'm gathering here. And I think it's kind of cool. And if you're like, oh, well, how does Luke Cage's, unbreakable skin hold back the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns? I don't want to say it's outlier. Obviously, it could be maybe my own opinion. But if you look back at the Age of the Ultron story, like, he survives a bunch of nukes, and he's barely alive, Luke Cage does, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of a testament to how durable his unbreakable skin is. And unless it's, if you want to go back to the Bendis area of New Avengers, nothing but a high-powered, concentrated laser or adamantium is going to cut his skin. So it's kind of cool that his skin can house all the explosive energy, the most powerful energy of the universe, as Thor's called it multiple times of the century, and I think that's kind of cool. But, so let's move on to the other big plot point here. I've made this whole joke between the celestial mind and his celestial body, like, oh, where's the lungs, the kidneys, the intestines? And, yeah, that's not a joke. We see this celestial body forming not too long after Cage unleashes his Super Saiyan 1 status. And we hear the celestial mind, she is the system now, and she is beyond your repair. And we see a body forming. And it is huge. It's the size of a celestial. Did not expect that at all. But that is super cool that that's what's happening here. And this whole panel that Chang draws, half of it is a celestial body, which is turned upside down. Kind of reminds me of a face-playing card with like a king or a queen or a jack. And the other half is upright, which is Luke Cage clearly going Super Saiyan 3. And I really love the way he draws this because, I mean, for one, the tiara starts to come back on his head, the classic tiara. But for no reason at all, Bernard Chang draws him with all these chains. Not just the chain that he was, that he normally had wrapped around his waist or, like a bandolier. But, like, man, they're just all grouped around him, around his waist, around his arms, his shins. He's now got an X of bandoliers of chains. They're all wrapped around his waist. And it's almost like they're there to help him contain all the power he's unleashed. Like, he's still chained. He's not completely unchained with his powers. And I thought that was a really neat little touch there. But as his words cut to Eversight, and she realizes this is not what she wants to live, he jumps into the celestial body, and the celestial mind, man, does not like this. She says, yes, I will live, and she busts out, and Luke says, damn right you will, and I will become, and then the mind's, nothing, 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 and he screams, no, and then we get this epic splash page of Celestial Cage, like, looking over the earth, and he's got all the cool celestial armor, but his, like, beard is really neat, and it glows with almost kind of like the chi of Shao-Lao, and he's got the dragon, this big dragon chi wrapped all around him, almost kind of like an anaconda, and the head comes over one of his fists, kind of like the armor of Undead Danny Rand that we're seeing now. And it's almost like he's got the brass knuckles you always see Luke Cage drawn with on covers that have like Cage across them, but he's got like these brass knuckles kind of in his hands. Looks pretty epic, and he's also got the mind's eye, the third eye, in his tiara that he wears. I thought that was a nice little touch. Really cool design, man. If I could ever pick Bernard Chang's mind on some of his designs, oh, excuse me, coffee's coming back up here, on like this Celestial Cage, Aeon the Knife, Eversight, The Void, like if he would ever want to come on the podcast, let me pick his mind. I would love that. I love art. I used to draw all the time when I was younger. I'm not the greatest at it, but it's the fact that I love to draw and create. And, yeah, I mean, I would love to, because he does a pretty good job with some of these designs that he's came up with. So, the big question is here, why would he do this? Why would he become the celestial body? Is it because he's stuck in this universe, and maybe he can never go back? Is it because he wants to see Eversight live a human life? Possible. That's quite possible. But to me, I think he does this because Cage realizes the only way he's going to stop something as powerful as Aeon the Knife, who has the ability to cut through space and time, is to be the Celestial, and it's the only way to save Jessica and Danielle on Earth 616. Because Aeon the Knife has proven way too powerful for him to handle. And to me, this is the only way he can do it, and he's willing to accept that and sacrifice himself to just roam the cosmos so those two can live, because we clearly know that for some reason that we're still not clear about, they died in his universe. So with this omnipotence, he does a couple things. First, he deals with Aeon the Knife, because that's kind of why I think he actually accepts it. And I hate this because this cool new villain, this Inhuman, and everybody, we know how much everybody hates Inhumans. I don't hate Inhumans, but this whole issue, he just becomes an afterthought. After being the main event, Even with the Void, you still thought he was going to be around, because I thought maybe we'd get this big showdown, like a team up against the Void, maybe with Aeon the Knife, because Aeon the Knife realized maybe he screwed up. But that kind of also makes me think that that last issue got canceled. They had to cram everything into one issue, because he literally becomes an afterthought, and he only gets one full page of context in this whole book, and then other than that, he's just sprinkled throughout it, and I kind of hate that, because I thought he was a really cool issue. But anyways, he teleports up behind Luke Cage as he's giving this speech. He says, "From Reek Attilan, you have raised the hubristic metropolis, and yet none of my people, no inhumans, remain for my blade. Against them I would have proven my supremacy. Without them, I unbind myself from these Kree shackles. For what happens next? My Terrigen gifts must no longer be contained." And he's kind of standing off against Mayor Luke Cage, I should say. Gotta differentiate here, as everybody kind of scatters. "This world deserves the death I bring." And he kind of takes off his helmet. Luke kind of stares at him. "Everyone, stand behind me." And sadly enough, man, we never get to see a fight between these two play out. Man, if we're talking maybe this 5th issue got canceled, if there was a 5th issue. I mean, I don't know, but that's what I'm going with for this episode. I would have loved to see 616 Luke Cage and Timeless Cage fight Aeon the Knife together. Maybe, they have a conversation after this fight. But we do see 616 Mayor Cage toss a car at Aeon the Knife, who cuts it in half. We see, it looks like Jessica Jones with Danielle, and they're like scattering some kids away. We do see Spider-Man there saving somebody, but I mean, obviously, Mayor Cage is going to stand no chance against Aeon the Knife, if Timeless Cage really doesn't stand a chance. But to me, that's where the Avengers should be showing up, and the Fantastic Four should be showing up. And even as they're getting ready to square off, by the time Luke becomes Celestial Cage, Aeon the Knife has Danielle, Cage, and Jessica Jones kind of in his crosshairs. "You have come for a final round, Power Man. Do you think this round will go any differently?" So, he knows it's Cage. He calls him Power Man. It seems like this is where the golden light of Celestial Cage's omnipotency kind of shows down. And I could see in a 5th issue, even if he's not a Celestial, this is where he comes down and the glow kind of announces his arrival. "You must be God, looming from the stars, but this man shares your face, and I will begin your defeat with enough." And he's like, "What?" So see, even there, he thinks just Power Man Timeless is coming down to fight him. But no, it's so much more, and he's kind of shocked. And I like where Danielle says, "Dada, yeah, baby, I see it too." So Luke actually gets this look up and see himself as a Celestial. Aeon the Knife says, "So, finally, a foe worthy of my existence." And Celestial Cage tells him, "No, Aeon, this won't be a fight at all." And he's swinging his fist with the dragon head around it at Aeon the Knife. And he's like, "Wait." And he's like, "Oh boy." This is where the meme comes up. In this moment, he realized he fucked up. And this is where it's at. So, this page kind of confused me, this little splash here. So, I was like, okay, we've got looks like a ship, some teeth, and then a blue light. And it took me a minute, because at first I was like, what is this page? Actually, it's Cage's fist with his celestial brass knuckles, and the chi of Shao over his fist, and actually it's hitting Aeon the Knife and winking him out of existence, shattering his atoms across the cosmos. And at first I was like, what is going on in this page? And then when I went back and read it, started taking my notes, I'm like, oh, that's Luke Cage's fist. Completely caught me off guard. The next big thing he does is, as I mentioned, he makes Eversight human, and I'm assuming he just teleports her to Earth. And then this book is 1 month later, and it's her just traveling around, enjoying life. And she writes this really sweet letter to Danielle, telling her that she's always going to be loved no matter what. And it's left in that memorial wall. Obviously, Cage reads it because we see him looking at it and looking at the stars, and he knows something's up. And he knows there's another version of him out there, ruling the cosmos, wandering around, and that's how the book ends. Now, there are some things I want to touch up on here. During the conflict, when Luke chases Void to the sun, and it begins to shift forms into Luke's loved ones as he mocks him. And here you come, even as you see the butcher Aeon go to make the earth his arbiter, you make the hero's choice. Like, you don't know what that costs every time you make it. And I'm assuming a decision like this is what killed Danielle and Jessica Jones. And then we see him turn into them. By just living, you put us in danger, is what Danielle says. Jessica Jones follows up. It wasn't enough that you got Jess and Danny killed. You have killed us in this timeline too? Luke screams, keep my family out of your damn mouth, and the Void turns into Danny Rand. Danny Rand was your family too, Luke, but you couldn't see him grow beyond you, and I'm guessing this is a kind of a shot at him thinking that his powers meant nothing. And he continues on, the Void does. So you punched him through the heart. So now we know what happened to Danny Rand in Luke Cage's timeline. I'm going to assume, just my guess, that Void kind of took control of Luke in this moment when he punched out Danny's heart. Very shallow, transferring the chi to whoever defeats him in combat via the legacy of Iron Fist. And if that's how Luke became the Iron Fist, he literally tore his heart out and took the chi from Danny. That is cool. It's a bit disturbing. But I understand if the Void took him over. But there needed to be some more explanation there. I needed a whole flashback page dedicated to that because this is the greatest bromance in comics. These guys have so much history together. Like, that deserved a page just to see that happen. Even if the Void is narrating it and we're just seeing flashback scenes. Like, to me, I see that had to be in this book if there was that 5th issue that got canceled and just that flashback was cut out. Because, man, I want some flashbacks from this story. I want flashbacks to him and the Hulk, with Cage taking the blood, with him in Sentry, with him taking the power of a million exploding suns. Like, I wish there were some flashback scenes. And then that sucks because now this book is ending and we'll never get that. But who knows? We might. I mean, he's out there wandering the cosmos alone. That also gives me the flashback like, hey, I also want to see Khonshu resurrect Danny Rand because now we know he dies. So to me, in this world, in this timeline with Luke Cage and Timeless, had to be Khonshu that resurrected Danny Rand, who's about to be resurrected, who I really think has some type of bird, a hawk, or a falcon on the shoulder plate of his armored arm. Just saying. So the end of this, the return of the Void to 616. We see the essence and the atoms of Aeon the Knife and his giant Ichigo sword floating off to the darkness of space, where apparently the Void waits. And it says, as for you, well, what was left of the great genetic Messiah took only minutes to find itself well beyond the light of the sun, to a place that awaits every warrior who lives by the sword, into the endless darkness, where Luke Cage believed nothing lived, into me. So let's do some history here with Void. So let's go all the way to Bendis, I believe, wrote Siege. At the end of Siege, after Sentry kills Bob Reynolds, he flies him into the sun in Thor's cape. Thor's got him all wrapped up, and he just lets him drift off to the sun where he burns. And Luke gives him, and Thor gives him a funeral pyre. So, really cool ending to the Sentry. But if you jump back into Sentry Fallen Sun, as in the celestial body that gives life to our planet, Clock tells Reed Richards that his master will return. So we know that the Sentry is damn near unkillable. And we learn about this in Uncanny Avengers as he's brought back to life with both the life and the death seed. As Sentry chokes Thor, he tells him, "Are you insane? Has the madness of the Void taken you?" Bob says, "There is no void within me. In its place is only death." He rises up above him. "I'm the ancient mariner, home from a journey fraught with dreadful hubris and unbound misstep. I must tell my story and teach a lesson to those I meet, my penance. A man I was. He was riddled with festering ailments and a deep sadness, a confused and drug-addled man, turned soldier supreme through pilfered science. By giving up on me, you took the chance to help me, old friend. You cured me of that aerophobic nightmare. You cleansed me in the sun. And it did burn me down. I did swim through dreadfulness to the light. From an atom, I was regrown to be burnt down again and again until my curse was lifted. The void left me. So, this means that Sentry and the void pretty much share the same powers. Just one's an evil version, one's a good version. So, if the Sentry survived the sun based on what we just seen here in Uncanny Avengers, so could the void. Let's move on to the whole Sentry Void. We'll find a fast forward. They're split apart to get back together. They split apart, they get back together. If we go to King in Black, this is where things get interesting. Because now in the 616, the powers of Sentry belong to Mallory Gibbs, aka Solaris, who gained them after Bob was killed by Null in King in Black. In the first issue, he's ripped in half, much like how Sentry ripped Carnage in half in Bendis' beginning of New Avengers. At this time, the Void was absorbed into Null, and at the end of King in Black, he was destroyed by Venom, who is the host of the God of Light. So it's always been presumed that the Void died because Null was vaporized. So as we see Venom soar Null into the sun, much like we see Timeless Cage do the Void here. And he's unleashing his power into him, and he rips Null to atoms, just vaporizes him. Much like we see the Sentry talk about to Void in Uncanny Avengers. Void is gone. Sentry is gone in 616. Is this how the Void returns to the 616? He is actually from a different timeline. And like I said, we know Mallory has the powers of the Sentry, so how is Bob going to come back? Because there's a thing, I just mentioned this in the last episode with the Undead Iron Fist, like Marvel Comics does stuff with characters, even if they were bringing them back from the dead, if they give them this big event. They do this when they're setting them up for the MCU. It's a pattern, you can check it out. I've bought comics for dirt cheap, just kind of guessing on characters that will show up, and then I'll turn around, flip them for $50-$60 so I can buy more expensive comics that I want to add to my collection so I can build up my entire run of Amazing Spider-Man. I could see this because here's the thing. Thunderbolts just come out. I don't call it New Avengers, not because they are the New Avengers. It's just Thunderbolts to me. I'm not gonna hate it. Love that movie. It's great. But we have the debut of Sentry and Void in there. So at some point, they've got to come back into the 616 proper. Also, we know that Null, they just announced Null is returning. What is that, Venom 250? So this puts a Void in 616. The question is, where's Bob Reynolds? In Void, I'd imagine, just throwing this out there, will probably try to merge with Mallory Gibbs, and this will bring back Bob because she is young, she can't deal with it, and Bob has to take the burden of not only being the Sentry, but trapping the Void inside him. I could see that happening. We'll see in time. Maybe it'll be timeless. Who knows? That'll wrap up this episode of the Deadly Podcast Kung Fu. You can check out the podcast on our social media platforms, Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. If you like my music, check out Rushing Tiger by Kuro over on SoundCloud. But in the end, guys, support your favorite podcasts. Support your local comic book shops and keep reading comics, guys.